The war between humans and the Virelians had burned across the stars for years. No one remembered how it started, only that it had become a cycle of raids, counterattacks, and blood. Captain Aaron Kane was tired of it, tired of losing friends. To a war that seemed endless. His unit had been sent to the frozen wastelands of Theris IV, tasked with sabotaging a Virelian command post buried under the ice. The mission was simple on paper, but nothing about Theris IV was simple. The wind howled like a living thing, cutting through his armor as snow whipped against his visor. The rest of his squad was gone, scattered, dead, or captured after the ambush. Aaron was alone, his breath visible inside the cracked seal of his helmet. He had a single rifle, 2 clips of ammo, and a determination that kept his legs moving, even when his body screamed to stop. Somewhere ahead was the extraction point, but something else drew his attention, a faint, irregular movement in the snow. He almost ignored it, thinking it was the wind stirring loose ice, but then he saw the black, glistening armor. It was shaped unlike anything human. Sprawled in the snow was a figure with long, segmented limbs, her body covered in intricate alien armor that shimmered faintly under the pale light. Aaron raised his rifle instantly, but then he saw the wound. A deep gash ran along her side, the blue blood steaming in the cold. She was Virelian, and not just any soldier. Her crown-like headpiece and markings told him she was a queen. The logical choice was to leave her. She was the enemy's leader, a symbol of everything humans were fighting against. But as he looked at her labored breaths, the frost clinging to her face, and the tremble in her arms as she tried to move, something inside him shifted. She wasn't a monster right now, she was dying. He stepped closer, his boots crunching in the snow. Her eyes snapped open, glowing with a sharp amber light locking onto his. The look was half hatred, half disbelief. Her voice was faint but carried a strange elegance as she spoke in accented Galactic common. "Human, you should kill me now." Aaron didn't answer. He knelt, checking the wound, then glanced at the horizon. The extraction point was 30 miles away. Even in perfect conditions, it would take hours to reach. With her injuries, she'd never survive unless he carried her. The thought made his mind rebel. Carrying her would slow him down, put him in danger, and if command found out, they'd call it treason. But leaving her here meant letting the cold finish what the battlefield had started. She tried to push him away weakly, but her strength failed. He lifted her anyway, feeling the strange, almost organic texture of her armor. She was heavier than she looked, her body trembling against him. "Save your strength," he muttered, starting forward through the blizzard. The wind cut across his path, and his boots sank into drifts up to his knees. The alien queen's breathing was shallow, her head resting against his shoulder despite herself. Once, she murmured something in her own language, the sound like a low melody, before falling silent again. Every step felt like dragging a mountain, but Aaron kept going. The snowstorm made it impossible to tell how far they'd come. Hours blurred together. Twice, he heard Virelian patrols in the distance, their voices carried by the wind. He pressed her closer, hiding in the shadow of a ridge until the danger passed. She didn't resist now. Her body was limp, trusting him, if only because she had no choice. The irony wasn't lost on him. He was a human soldier carrying the heart of the enemy's empire on his back, and she was alive only because of him. When they finally stopped for rest beneath an overhang of ice, her eyes opened again. The fire in them was weaker now, replaced by something else, a searching look, as if she was trying to understand him. "Why?" she whispered. "Why not let me die?" Aaron didn't have an answer that made sense, not even to himself. He only shrugged. "Because I'm not like you think I am." She studied him for a long moment, then closed her eyes. The snow fell quietly around them, the storm briefly easing, but Aaron knew the hardest part of the journey was still ahead. And somewhere deep in his mind, He wondered if saving her would change the war, or if it would destroy him. The storm returned with new fury, as if the planet itself wanted to bury them. Snow stung Aaron's face, clinging to his lashes and freezing against his skin. The alien queen was colder now, her breathing uneven, but she still clung faintly to his shoulder. He could feel her pulse against his armor, slow but steady. Every step was a battle, his legs aching, his back screaming, yet he refused to stop. The horizon was nothing but a wall of white. He navigated by instinct and memory, scanning for landmarks through the blizzard. More than once, he thought he saw shadows, moving in the distance, tall shapes that could have been rock formations or Virelian hunters. His grip on the rifle tightened. If they found him carrying their queen, they would kill him without hesitation. A ridge loomed ahead, its icy walls rising like jagged teeth. The wind was worse there, funneled through narrow gaps, howling in his ears. He set the queen down for a moment, leaning her against the frozen wall. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly through the snow. "You are a fool," she murmured. "Probably," Aaron replied, crouching to check the wound again. The bleeding had slowed, but the edges of the gash were rimmed with frostbite. He tore another strip from his undershirt and wrapped it tightly. She didn't flinch this time. Instead, she watched him with a strange expression, her gaze almost curious. "Do you think saving me will save your people?" she asked. Her voice was weak, but there was a trace of amusement in it. Aaron shook his head. "I'm not doing this for my people. I'm doing it because you're alive. That's enough reason." Her lips curved slightly, but not in mockery. "Strange human," she whispered, closing her eyes again. He lifted her once more and pushed forward. The ridge was harder to climb than he expected, the ice slick under his boots. Twice he almost slipped, but each time he tightened his hold around her and dug his boots in deeper. At the top, the world opened into a frozen valley, wind tearing across the flat expanse. They were halfway across when he heard it. A low, rhythmic hum. Aaron froze, his ears straining. Through the blowing snow, dark shapes emerged. Virelian scouts, their insect-like armor glistening under faint light, moving in a loose formation. He counted at least 6. The queen stirred, sensing them too. "If they see us together," she began. "I know," Aaron said sharply, pulling her closer. He dropped behind a snowdrift, heart pounding. The scouts moved closer, their steps silent but deliberate. He could see the gleam of their weapons now, long spears tipped with burning plasma. The queen's hand, light but cold, touched his arm. "Leave me," she whispered. "They will not harm you if you abandon me here." Aaron's jaw tightened. Not happening. The scouts were only yards away now. Aaron pulled the queen flat against the snow and stayed perfectly still. The icy wind roared over them, but his heartbeat was loud in his ears. One scout paused, turning its head toward their hiding spot. Aaron's finger hovered over the rifle's trigger, but he held his breath, praying the storm would mask their heat signature. After a tense moment, the scout moved on, following the others into the white void. Aaron waited until the last shadow disappeared before moving. The queen's eyes were wide now, her voice low. "You risked your life for me. Again. Get used to it," he said, starting forward once more. They walked in silence for what felt like hours. The blizzard began to thin, revealing a faint glow on the horizon human beacon lights. Aaron felt a flicker of hope. But before they could reach them, the ground beneath his feet groaned. A deep cracking sound echoed, and the snow gave way. They plunged into darkness, the ice swallowing them whole. Cold water hit Aaron's face as he crashed through the ice. The shock stole his breath, but instinct kept him moving. He clutched the alien queen tighter, kicking his legs until his boots found a slope beneath the freezing water. They slid down, together, tumbling into a cavern lit by a strange blue glow. He coughed hard, dragging himself to his knees. The queen lay beside him, her breath shallow but steady. She shivered under her black, glistening armor, droplets of water clinging to the strange plates. Aaron checked her wound again, still bleeding, but the cold had slowed it. They were alive, but now trapped. The cavern stretched far in every direction, the walls coated with glowing ice. Water dripped from above, each sound echoing in the stillness. Aaron scanned for a way out, but the walls were too steep and slick to climb. The only path was a narrow tunnel leading deeper underground. He hesitated. Going forward meant stepping into the unknown. Staying meant freezing to death. The queen stirred, her amber eyes flickering open. "Where are we?" she asked weakly. "Somewhere under the ice," Aaron replied, helping her sit up. "We can't go back. The only way is forward." Her gaze drifted toward the tunnel. "Danger waits there." Aaron gave a short laugh. "Danger's everywhere. Let's move." She leaned on him as they walked, their footsteps crunching on the frost-covered floor. The tunnel twisted sharply, the glow fading until they were moving. In near darkness, Aaron's visor light illuminated jagged crystal formations and frozen stalactites. Somewhere ahead, he heard a faint rumbling. The sound grew louder until they stepped into a wide chamber. The air here was warmer, steam rising from cracks in the ground. Pools of dark water reflected the light, and strange, insect-like creatures clung to the ceiling. The queen's voice was tense. "Ice crawlers, they feed on the weak." As if hearing her, one of the creatures shifted, its many eyes glinting. It dropped from the ceiling, landing between them with a screech. Its long claws scraped against the ice as it lunged. Aaron shoved the queen behind him and fired a burst from his rifle. The shots cracked through the chamber, striking the crawler and sending it skidding back. More movement above. 2, then 3 more crawlers descended, their legs slicing into the ice. Aaron's rifle barked again, taking down one, but another leaped past him toward the queen. She raised an arm, and for the first time, he saw her fight energy crackled from her palm, striking the crawler and hurling it into the wall. They moved back to back without speaking, each covering the other. The last crawler fell with a smoking hole in its chest. The chamber was silent again, the only sound their ragged breathing. Aaron lowered his rifle, glancing at her. "Not bad for someone who told me to leave her behind." Her lips curved slightly. "Not bad for someone who claims not to be a warrior." They pressed on, the warmth growing as they moved deeper. The tunnel opened into another cavern, this one filled with glowing plants and small streams of liquid heat. It was almost beautiful. Aaron guided her to a flat rock near one of the streams. She sat slowly, her gaze lingering on him. "You carry me, protect me, and now you save me again. Tell me, human, why risk so much for me?" Aaron hesitated. "Maybe because somewhere along the way, you stopped being the enemy to me." Her eyes searched his face, but she said nothing. The warmth of the cavern wrapped around them, but in Aaron's mind, the danger was far from over. Somewhere above, the war still raged, and he had no idea if they'd ever make it back to the surface. They rested only long enough to catch their breath. The warmth of the underground cavern was tempting, but Aaron knew staying too long could be a death sentence. The queen's wound still needed proper treatment, and the longer they waited, the closer enemy patrols would be to finding them. He found a narrow slope at the far end of the cavern. It rose sharply into darkness, with faint drafts of cold air slipping down from above. "This might lead to the surface," he said, tightening the straps on his rifle. The queen pushed herself to her feet, wincing. "Then we go," she replied. They climbed slowly, the path slick with frost. Sometimes Aaron had to brace himself and pull her up, his gloves slipping on the icy rock. The air grew colder with every step, and soon their breaths were clouds again. Halfway up, Aaron froze. There was movement ahead, shadows shifting in the dim light. He crouched low, motioning for her to do the same. From the curve in the tunnel, muffled voices reached them. The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Virelian soldiers," she whispered. "My guards." Aaron looked at her sharply. "Your guards? The ones hunting you?" She nodded slowly. "If they see me with you, they will not hesitate to kill you. They believe you have taken me as a hostage." Aaron's mind raced. They could try to sneak past, but the tunnel was too narrow. Any fight here would be close and deadly. Before he could decide, the Queen stepped forward. "Wait here," she said. She walked toward the curve, her posture suddenly regal despite the pain. Her voice rang out in her language, sharp, commanding. Aaron couldn't understand the words, but he felt the authority in them. The shadows stopped moving. Then came an answering call, deeper and more hesitant. The Queen kept speaking, her tone softer now, almost persuasive. For a moment, Aaron thought it might work until a harsh shout echoed back and plasma fire ripped through the air. Aaron dove forward, pulling her back against the wall as the shots scorched the ice. His rifle barked in reply, the sound deafening. In the confined space, one soldier fell, but the others pressed forward, their armor glinting. The Queen's voice rose in fury, her hand crackling with energy. She sent a blast down the tunnel, knocking 2 soldiers off their feet. Aaron charged through the haze, firing until the last soldier collapsed. The air was thick with steam, and the acrid smell of burned armor. Aaron turned to her, breathing hard. "That went well." She gave a faint smile, though her eyes were troubled. "They will send more. We must move quickly." They pressed on, the tunnel climbing higher until it opened into a frozen canyon. The sky above was dark with swirling clouds, the wind sharp against their faces. Aaron scanned the horizon and spotted a faint glimmer far to the north, the human beacon lights. "That's our way out," he said. The Queen followed his gaze, her expression unreadable. "If we reach it, what then? Will you give me back to your leaders?" Aaron hesitated. "We'll figure that out when we get there." They started moving, but neither spoke. The silence between them was heavy, filled with questions neither dared to ask. Every step toward the beacon was a step toward a choice that could change not just their lives, but the fate of 2 warring worlds. The wind in the canyon was relentless, tearing at their clothes and making each step harder than the last. Snow swirled in angry spirals, hiding the jagged cliffs that surrounded them. Aaron kept one arm steady around the Queen, guiding her forward. Through the icy haze, the beacon lights were brighter now, but they still seemed impossibly far away. Every few minutes, Aaron looked back, scanning for movement. The Queen noticed. "You think they are following us," she said quietly. "I know they are," Aaron replied. "Your guards weren't the only ones out here." The words had barely left his mouth when the echo of marching footsteps reached them. At first, it was faint, just a rhythm beneath the wind. Then it grew louder, joined by the metallic click of weapons being readied. Aaron swore under his breath. "We need cover." They spotted a narrow split in the canyon wall and ducked inside. The space was cramped, forcing them close together. Aaron crouched by the opening, peering out as shadowy figures emerged through the snowstorm. Virelian soldiers, at least a dozen, fanned out across the ice, their weapons glowing with heat. The Queen's voice was tense. "They are elite hunters. They will not stop until they have me." Aaron gave her a sharp look. "Then I guess I'll have to give them a reason to stop." Before she could answer, he stepped into the open and fired. The rifle cracked in the frozen air, sending 2 soldiers to the ground. The rest returned fire instantly, plasma bolts slicing through the storm. Aaron ducked and rolled, returning shot after shot, forcing them to scatter. One soldier broke through the chaos, charging straight for the Queen. She stood tall despite her injury, lifting her hand and releasing a surge of energy that sent the attacker crashing into the canyon wall. The impact left a smoking mark in the ice. Aaron moved with practiced precision, covering her flank. But the enemy numbers were too great. More soldiers emerged from the storm, surrounding them from all sides. His rifle clicked empty. He reached for his sidearm, but before he could fire, the queen stepped in front of him. Her voice rang out in her native tongue, loud, powerful, and impossible to ignore. The soldiers froze mid-step. Aaron didn't understand the words, but he could hear the force of them. Like commands no one dared to disobey, the leader of the group stepped forward, his weapon lowering slightly. He replied in the same language, his tone uncertain. The queen's answer was cold and final. Slowly, the soldiers began to back away, their eyes locked on her. Within moments, they vanished into the swirling snow. Aaron blinked. What just happened? She turned to him, her face calm but her eyes sharp. I invoked the right of the throne. No Virelian soldier can harm the chosen mate of their queen. Aaron stared at her. Mate, you mean? Yes, she said simply. You saved me more than once. By our law, you are mine now. And no one in my empire can touch you. He struggled for words, but none came. The queen didn't wait for an answer, she just started walking toward the beacon. Behind them, the wind swallowed their footprints, but Aaron knew the path ahead was about to get far more complicated. Asterisk. The beacon grew brighter with every step, its glow cutting through the swirling snow. Aaron's legs burned from exhaustion, but he didn't slow. The queen walked beside him now, her head held high despite the blood still seeping slowly from her wound. The closer they came, the more his mind churned. Beyond that beacon was a human outpost. Inside would be soldiers, medics, and his commanding officer. They would see the Virelian queen as an enemy prize or a prisoner, not as the woman he had carried through death and ice. The queen glanced at him. You are thinking about what happens next, she said softly. Yeah, he admitted. Humans and Virelians don't exactly share dinner tables. Her lips curved faintly. Perhaps they should. The beacon loomed ahead, rising from the snow like a metal tower, its signal pulsing into the sky. 2 human sentries stood at its base, their rifles snapping up the moment they saw the figures approaching. Aaron raised a hand. Hold your fire, he shouted. The sentries hesitated, confusion clear even through the storm. One of them stepped forward. Captain Kane, who's that with you? Aaron didn't answer right away. He looked at the queen, her amber eyes steady on his. Then he turned back to his men. She's under my protection. She's not to be harmed. The sentries exchanged glances. Sir, she's the enemy. Not anymore, Aaron said firmly. She's my responsibility. They didn't argue, but their eyes followed her warily as Aaron led her inside the outpost. Warmth hit them immediately, the heat almost painful after days in the cold. Medics rushed over, but Aaron kept one hand on her shoulder, refusing to let them separate them. Hours later, the commander arrived, a tall, sharp-eyed man with a face carved from stone. He looked from Aaron to the queen. Do you have any idea what you've done, Captain? Yes, Aaron said. I saved a life. That's supposed to mean something. The commander's gaze flicked to the queen. And what does she say? She stepped forward, her voice calm but carrying weight. I am Queen Seraph of the Virelians. By my people's law, this human is my chosen mate. If you harm him or take him from me, you will bring war to your gates. Silence filled the room. Every soldier in earshot froze. The commander's eyes narrowed. And if we let you leave, then I will return to my world, she said. And there will be no more war between us. Aaron knew the commander was weighing his options. In the end, he gave a short nod. Get them transport out of here. As they walked toward the waiting ship, Aaron glanced at her. So, mate, huh? She smiled faintly. You carried me 30 miles through death. That makes you mine. And I always keep what's mine. He didn't argue. The ramp closed behind them. The engines roared, and for the first time in years, Aaron dared to think that maybe the war was finally over, not because of treaties or politics, but because one human had refused to let his enemy die.